All right. All right. What's up, infection vectors? This is my first video to you, and very much not my first video to me, because I have privated all the other ones because they are not good. Hopefully this one will be good. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is I am developing a Flutter app to highlight or to illustrate the usage of GraphQL Flutter and Built GraphQL, which are two projects that I heavily that I created and heavily contribute to. And we've got one of the mistakes I made before was not having a roadmap or going into things without really having a roadmap. So I've got a roadmap now. The app I'm building, it's related to, it's within a problem domain that I am somewhat acquainted with, which is basically just task related applications. So it's a to-do app. It will hopefully end up having some interesting features, but the main thing that I want to do here is use it as a sandbox to test out some ideas I have for developing Flutter apps using generated GraphQL models and serializers, and yeah. So that's the long and short of it. If I get more viewers in the future, I'll be happy to extrapolate to. Well, I shouldn't put it that way. I'll try and add more of a description later if I think of more things that need describing. Okay, so this is the basic roadmap that I put together. We're going to try and take it as piecemeal as possible. So the simplest possible to-do app is just creating and completing tasks, and no guarantees that we're going to get through that section today. You might think it's very trivial, and it is very trivial, but we're writing a full stack application from the ground up. So and we're doing it we're not using the quickest tools off the shelf. If you wanted to write something, kind of like throw something together as fast as possible, then Firebase would probably be the right move. But the whole point here is to test and build upon the built GraphQL. So as I was writing this roadmap, I actually ended up deciding that it was actually a pretty interesting problem domain. I thought this was just going to be a toy app, but the reality is there's a lot of interesting features here that I would like to make use of myself, which is N of 1 validation, which is always nice. So anyways, let's just jump into it. Hate it. Okay, so one ongoing question for these streams is going to be how well can I babble while working on something of a certain degree of complexity, and also how long have I worked out all the kinks with using OBS yet? And the answer to that Oh, and also how often am I going to use verbal stops? Because that is going to bug me a lot until I get better about it. Okay, so all right, stream seems like it's doing all right. So man, this viewport is so small. I've got to give you all a bit of context. I probably won't do this again, or it's not like I'm going to do this at the beginning of every stream, but I've rigged up OBS to toggle between the 4 main screens that I'm using for development. This is the upper right of my screen. It's just VS Code, and then Firefox for, well, for looking things up, for Stack Overflow, basically. And then under this, I've also got my terminal. So I guess I should probably have that open in. Originally, I was using the scene switcher, but it's pretty hard to keep track of, and so I just switched to using hotkeys. Okay, that's not right. So this should actually be here. Place. Alrighty. So to fill y'all in on what I did last time, I might edit it, pare down the video, and put it up in a more refined form, but it's mostly just not worth viewing. So essentially, the main the central premise of my workflow is I write a Postgres schema to define the models in my problem domain and their relationships, because really SQL is the most robust language we have for doing domain modeling. Like, it's just what it's built for implicitly. In order to define the relationships in a database, you need a very powerful programming language. So don't let anyone tell you that SQL is like not real programming. If anything, serious SQL is one of the most powerful languages that exists, simply because of the 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 context in which it exists. So all we have right now is we add an extension for UIDs, and we're just creating and like completing tasks and possibly copying them. So, but it only takes one table to do that. In the future, we'll probably have more tables, especially with this roadmap. I want something of sufficient complexity to like build abstractions with that translate to other applications. Because one problem with like to-do apps as a sample app is that the relationships between your domain models, relationships between your data types are a fundamental aspect of any software you develop, and very rarely do you have the privilege of working in a problem domain that only has one real entity type. So to do sample apps are just, in my opinion, not good enough for demonstrating most library usage, or for like for demonstrating much at all. So That's why it's only the first bullet point to get an actual to-do app. So what I would like to do is essentially like add richness to the basic to-do concept here. So I want people to be able to start and stop timers in relation to specific tasks. So you could use it as for instance, what's the term, like billing manager. Like if you're working on specific tickets or whatever, it could serve as that, or it could work as like you're trying to like jog for a certain amount of time, but and well, you have to be able to see that kind of stuff and visualize it for it to be very useful. So that's going to be our third component. This one will probably be mostly just Flutter hackery, right? Not hackery, but like Flutter hacking on the Flutter side of things. And this is going to be a full stack feature. And then this is going to be where things start to get like add an additional layer of complexity. So this will take more UI considerations, more robust state management, and will start to really start moving the bar past basic to-dos. And this will add some relational complexity. So in the app that I was building or am building, that I am taking a break from to do this just for you, my non-existent audience. The thing that I feel like a lot of applications, the complexity that a lot of applications end up drowning in is relational complexity. Like, how do I track the relationship between all of the entities in my system in a sane way that doesn't hurt deeply to maintain? So how do I avoid like updating each relationship's constraints 4 times across every part of the stack? You know, the goal, my goal, is to use code generation to eschew most of those issues. That's why I built GraphQL to Dart, and then more recently built GraphQL, which generates BuiltValue models to make that a bit easier to deal with. But there's still lots of problems with managing entity relationships across the full stack. So hopefully we can come up with some nice abstractions that make it easier to write robust full stack software without sinking a bajillion man hours into their, or human hours into their creation and maintenance. That is my idealistic view of the potential future of software development. Anyways, so that's 12 minutes of not programming. Let's get into some actual code, right? So we've got all we have so far is the main file and all these generated. I gotta stop looking at myself in the viewport. That's gonna drive me insane. So here, I should just change the tab. Okay. So one particular decision. So on the back end, we're using PostGraphQL, which basically spins up a GraphQL API on top of your Postgres database. So that's what really we're doing. We've got a chain of code generators, essentially, is one way of thinking about it. So we write our Postgres schema, which currently is just this task table, and we're using UID so that we can sync with the client easier. So we create the Postgres schema, we spin up PostGraphQL. PostGraphQL emits a GraphQL schema that is derived from that Postgres schema. We then use the Postgres schema with built GraphQL to generate. This is my project. To generate all these tasty serialization models. So this is weird. I'm surprised that this is unused. But essentially, we generate all these BuiltValue models, which are immutable models with a couple of nice features provided for us by the good folks at Google, or really just the good folk at Google, because this project is basically like made by, I mean, okay, it's this guy, David Morgan. He's a champion of the people. Okay, so we generate the BuiltValue models and then add some helper methods like to.json and from.json. These things are not properly documented in built GraphQL. If people are actually start wanting to use it, this is the main resource right now. But if I can, I will publish it. I will do a better job of exporting that project to the public in the future. You have my word. Okay, I'm trying to get as like loose of a candor as possible here. This is just one of the most surreal experiences to try and spew a certain projection of yourself into the ether to be immortalized forever. Yeah, that's definitely what I should be thinking about, huh? Okay, so for some reason the doc strings that it generates they always have a space, but I'm not sure why they do. So we're generating models for the schema. We're generating models for this particular mutation, and we are currently only making use of this to render some static data. So it looks not good, as you can tell. Okay. Why is it? Okay, I need to keep the viewport open because I just I just went over all this code without y'all being able to see it, huh? That was so stupid. Okay. That sucks. We're working these kinks out. We're dekinking. Okay, so the only place that we're using these models is to render some static data. I will go through this again. So how much of that was, God, that was trash, huh? How do I like create the antithesis of a stream highlight, you know? That's one thing that the advanced scene switcher would have picked up on, is it would have followed my cursor, and I think it was breaking my computer, so I stopped using it. But also, it's harder to predict what it's going to do, and I'd rather just be able to hotkey around. But oh boy, oh boy. Man, this is definitely one area that is going to just collide so hard with my perfectionism. I'm going to go through. I'm not going to go through that stuff again. I'm just going to show you the things that I was talking about. PostGraphQL. This spins up the PostGraphQL server. This exports the PostGraphQL schema. So we generate our GraphQL schema from the Postgres schema, which our Postgres schema is just UID. Also, so all we do is add UID extension, create a single table for our tasks. We use UIDs so that we can sync with the client easily. UIDs have some other. This particular UID format has some nice properties that I like, but don't really matter here. They might matter in the future, but they don't matter right now. And then we generate all these juicy serialization models from the query. So the goal of all this, let's go. Got this handy dandy. I've got a system to let my dog in and out of this room without having to leave the seat. I'm very proud of it. I came up with it yesterday. And I won't extrapolate further because that's not the point of this stream. So we can just go ahead and yarn start, but we can't because this project used to be called To Do O'Clock, and I changed the name. So alter database To Do O'Clock. One of the best things about Postgres is it has a really good console built in, as opposed to MySQL, whose console is, the last time I checked, garbage. So, yeah, it's a big deal. We're renaming it to To Do App. Older versions of Postgres, the only way to exit the database was \q, but they added the exit command because they are no longer as pure as they would and idealistic as they once were. I don't know why they didn't have exit in the first place, but I think it's because of some kind of possible like hypothetical namespace collision. I bet they debated that for years. Should we add the exit keyword to the console? Okay, so let's do some basic aesthetic tinkering. So we've got these tasks. We've got tasks in our state, but we're not using the state yet. So let's okay, my Vim mode is acting up a bit. Sorry. So this syntax might look a bit weird if you are unfamiliar with BuiltValue, but basically the way that BuiltValue works is, at least the default, the default factories are you get a closure with a model builder so that you can manipulate it however you want, which has it's a bit weird looking to get used to, but it is I think a very elegant approach, especially in a language where well, I think it's an elegant approach with the inference considered. So to give you a quick peek at how that looks, BuiltValue. Oh, I guess I left one piece of the code generation puzzle out, which is that because we're oh, I don't know why that happened. Oh, it's because the state was carried over from the regeneration. I think. Why is this an issue? Let's rename this. That should rejigger it. So this is going to be hard to keep. This is one problem with this setup is, and why I might end up abandoning it because the vim command the normal mode vim command line is at the bottom of the VS Code window, so you just can't see it while I'm doing stuff in my main editing context, which is not good. If I can move I think I can pop out the debug console, which I might end up doing. So, but we're taking it as it comes. So what should this be called? I'm not going to bother thinking about it. So it's complaining that, there we go. It was complaining that it couldn't find the top level target. It won't usually do that, but because we're editing things in the main entry point, I think that's why it gets messed up. So I left back to context. I left out that our code generation wizardry isn't just that we're generating a GraphQL schema and then models from the GraphQL schema. It's that those models then also generate the BuiltValue models, right? So BuiltValue provides this file is generated by BuiltValue, and it generates implementation details for like building and building new versions of your immutable built value types efficiently. So it's a very cool project. One nitpick I have is that okay, this is what I was talking about. This is what the BuiltValue generator generates. So one little nitpick I have about BuiltValue is that the null errors that it throws only one null error, which is probably more efficient, but because eventually we're going to want to use this for like serialization, we're either going to need to get that changed by BuiltValue, which seems unlikely because they need backwards compatibility, or I mean maybe we could PR like an optional configuration, but either that or because we're already doing code generation, we can generate validation code ourselves. So yeah, just trying to be verbose. I appreciate verbosity. The other thing that we're generating is we're leveraging GQL's AST generator. So we what built GraphQL does is weave all these generators together in a form such that you can expose it exposes the AST and the models from BuiltValue. So my hope is to then take those abstractions and build another one on top that makes it trivial to use with GraphQL Flutter. Now, I say hope, but that's actually going to be very easy because I've already done that before for a very similar situation. So let's, well, but I won't do that now, because what we're doing is bringing it back to context, bringing it back to focus. What we're doing right now is we're going to add some interactivity to our app. So what we need is, with task display, when we press the button, we're going to want to call back avoid callback called complete. It is required. I like these. Dart has some amazing formatting tools. And let's get a bit more serious, huh? Let's get a bit more generic. We'll make that a complete button. I don't know how. I heard a knock on the door. Somebody's here. Somebody's here, but I won't let them come between us. So I'm rendering cards here. I'm rendering a list tile in a card. For the sake of temporary simplicity, I'm going to make this okay. I'm going to turn the leading into a button. It's an icon button, right? Yep. Flutter got all the widgets. Flutter got all the widgets, and we're going to remove this. We're going to refactor card to remove the widget. We're going to remove the column. We're just going to render the list tile because that's all we need. And now what we need is a callback. And I'm in the right view. I hope I'm in the right view. Oh, this is going to take a lot of getting used to. I think I need to make sure that the debug window bumps up against the bottom of the viewport, because I wouldn't be surprised if you all missed some of those edits. Apologies if you did, my ghost army. So complete is going to remove task TID because we have an ID system. So this is still just mock data, but they all have IDs. Actually, let's take advantage of. Let's do a little functional programming thing. So I like to name my closure returning functions blank, with this pattern, like task remover instead of remove task, because my systems are very rarely completely point free. So point free programming is where you just treat functions as pure verbs and as compositional units, essentially. So to not get bogged down in the details of what point free or pointless programming is, the result is basically an attempt at a grammar of functions, as opposed to what we tend to use, which is just a kind of hodgepodge of abstractions as we can think of them, that are slowly refined over time. So maybe if I was a real FP wizard, then I would be able to just write everything with pure functions, but I cannot. So I could just do t equals t here, but we're going to use this in other contexts probably. So we'll compare based on the ID, because we will need that to be guaranteed unique anyways. So why this should be valid. It says it's void, but it should be void callback, and that's why. So there we go. It compiles. Now the problem with this is that it's not a state setter. So let's just add some state set wrapper. And this should give us the ability to go over here to the app and complete things, and it breaks everything. So that's not really what we want. So, and the reason why it's not doing that is because both of these variables are named t, because I'm not the cleverest boy in the bunch. So that's why abbreviating names too much is a bad thing to do. So let's call this task to remove, and this is task in list. These are actually a bit more verbose than I would like, but that's first thing I thought of, and this code probably won't last for that long. Let's add a comma to make it a bit prettier. So there we go. That should work. That I'm so positive. Okay, it works. So that's nice. That's nice. It doesn't animate or anything. We can complete all the things in our list. So, but what we don't actually want to remove it. What am I thinking? What am I doing? What am I even doing here? What we actually want to do is modify it based on completion. So this should actually be a task completer. So what does it mean to complete a task? Well, the task model doesn't actually have the concept of a complete state. So we're actually going to have to go edit our data model. Let's see. Let's go into the schema. And I see, okay, this is plans are valuable, but I thought that we were going to be adding the completion enum here, which is obviously stupid because you need completion state almost immediately for any kind of to-do app. So Postgres has a feature called create type. I think it's called as enum, enum. So in the idioms are different for the, like, you probably are most familiar with enums as like enum option 1, like complete. What other enums what would we want here? While I don't want to be prematurely optimizing anything here, I also don't want to be stuck editing the schema over and over again, because that's one of the problems with, like, that's the trade-off for using a relational database management system is. So I just yanked this from the project that I really should be working on instead of doing this, but and this is worth noting. Casing doesn't matter in SQL, but it does help differentiate between, like, it's kind of a syntactic convenience. So no, that's not the right term. It's an idiom. It's become an idiom, and I think it's fine as an idiom, even though it's a bit awkward in some ways. So what kind of aspects does a what are the different states for a task? After you create it, it's awaiting to be completed. It can be completed, and it can be removed, right? It can be canceled. So I think canceled is probably fine for this, but what is the default? I'd rather not just leave it null, you know? So, oh, this is let's make it a task lifecycle. So let's make it pending, or to do. It's a to do. That's where to do fits into our system. It's a single state element. So, you know, one day we'll get away from the name to do app, but that's what we're doing for now. Okay, so state lifecycle. Lifecycle is less overloaded and it has more semantic value. So default task lifecycle to do? Default, no. That's not how Postgres works. I'm pretty sure this is how Postgres works. So okay, so we're going to take this, we're going to take it down here. We're going to go into our to-do app. We're going to begin. Because we haven't really done anything in here, I'm playing fast and loose. There are tools for managing raw there are tools for managing migrations with raw SQL, and if this project gets big enough, we'll have to dip into some solutions for that. But it's not very big yet, so we're just going to drop and commit our new table, and then we're going to, I'm restarting the GraphQL server. I am going into the backend and re-exporting because I'm forgetting the command. I am export schema. I am export schema generator of worlds. That was really lame. Okay, so honestly, the current structure of the app, I don't really need a backend folder yet, but you know, why not? Why not? What's it gonna harm? All right, let's generate some code. And while that's happening, it's very slow. It's a very slow code generator. That is, I do build GraphQL together in like 2 weeks, and so it's not very efficient yet. But one thing that I'll really be looking forward to when I get the time to do it is GraphQL inputs can have defaults, and obviously if we look at the schema task, if we go to the task input, it doesn't have, okay, the I feel silly now. Okay, so I guess that in PostGraphQL they don't generate input default definitions. Here's an input. I'm in the wrong place. Okay, so I guess in PostGraphQL they don't generate default input definitions. Like this should be, this should have a default task lifecycle, but that's probably very hard to do. I think defaults in Postgres can be expressions, so that's probably why they don't want to bother with it. But one thing about built GraphQL is I basically want to enable, like, I want to be able to generate as much kind of trivial stuff as possible, and that includes default values. So here's an example of a type with a well, this is an argument. This is a field argument with a default type. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the only place that we can use default arguments is in a field argument list such as this, which would mean that we can't actually have a default on an input type. Anyways, I'm wasting your time and I'm wasting mine. Lifecycle equals task lifecycle to do. One kind of irritation. Oh. Ironic. Jazz. That's my dog. Jazz. She wanted out, so she closed the door such that I could no longer open it. So clever. Antithesis of clever girl. Okay, so one nuisance about BuiltValue is that the BuiltValue enum system is, he made this custom enum class system, which I'm sure there are good reasons. I mean, there are a lot of nice things about using class constants instead of actual enums. Like he can add just more features to the enum, but it means that we can't do a autocomplete switch statement. Like you can't refactor into a complete a type safe switch statement. So one thing to know, this is probably just I like that I'm imagining y'all, my ghost army, my ghost squad, as just like the most critical stream viewers, as if there's just an abundance of like software development streaming and I'm not living up to your expectations for a quality streamer. Okay. Okay, so this is not correct. It should not be a complete. It should not be a remove. It should be a complete. So 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 what we can do is, this is the first solution that pops into my head, is I'm just going to map over the tasks. I'm going to set tasks to a map. Okay, it's okay for things to be generic sometimes. If So my editor is kind of laggy. I don't know if you can. My editor is laggy. I don't know if you can tell, but I can certainly tell, and I think it is possibly because of the resources that OBS is hogging. I'm sure. I mean, it's not OBS's fault. It's some kind of configuration issue on my part, or it's just, I don't know. There's all kinds of reasons why this kind of thing can happen, but typically that kind of Vim mode editor lag is really VS Code's Vim mode is the best Vim mode out there aside from actual Vim that I have encountered. So if we've got our completed task, then we're going to rebuild it, which means that we can return this. So we get ourselves a closure of our editable value, and then set the lifecycle equal to lifecycle task lifecycle completed, and we're going to use the cascade syntax. We're going to use an implicit return, and we're going to turn this whole thing into a ternary. We're not going to do that. We're just going to return the task. And that works fine. And I wonder if it's my turn to, okay, it's 3. It really do be 3 p.m. already. So the complaint it has, I'm going to show you, but I already know that it wants a list and not an iterable. So, and then we're going to want to stylize our list somehow. So let's is complete. That doesn't exist, you know? So why am I using it? It's because I want to show off class extensions. Oh, my army of ghosts. There we go. So this is something that I'm going to want to make heavy use of, is probably is completed. We're going to go with is completed because it'll be more predictable and easier to maintain a consistent API if we base our Boolean fetchers off of the actual enum value name. So, and we're going to move the Boolean check here. Now, some of you might say this is premature optimization, and it is, but I wanted to demonstrate this. That is not, it's not working. So this is a class extension. We can use it to add helper methods directly on the class, so that we can basically add these dynamic, or not they're static at the file level, but so dot checkbox. Okay, whatever. Okay, it started registering the extension. So what should we call this? Helpers? Eventually we'll probably want like a centralized location to add extensions for. One possibility actually, so in built GraphQL, you can, I'm not making use of it here, but here, let me pull an example of this from Savvy. Savvy is my main project. So I think I've only done this for this, I've only implemented this for the schema. I'm not entirely sure though, but basically I'm going to dump this here and comment it out for future reference. You can define imports and exports for your generated files. So and if this isn't doable with the documents, then eventually it will be, because essentially I want to be able to write a grammar of like write generalized abstractions and then have them be like funneled into built GraphQL so that it is the centralized a centralized consolidator of useful abstractions or generalizable abstractions. That might not be the best way to do things at the end of the day. That's just my current thinking about this, about the problem space of generating abstractions. So we'll see how my thinking evolves on that. I'm sure you're riveted to really looking forward to this quirky Michaelisms. So, oh boy, I was in a good flow state, and now I'm thinking about what I'm doing again. Never think about what you're doing. Only do. Musashi Musasho. That's a quote. You can quote me quoting him on that. What was I doing? Okay, so I added this, and so okay, we can test this now. Okay, we got a check, and already I'm proving this extension method useless. So because I already want to switch statement based on the I want to switch statement based on the life cycle. So let's just get the icon. Task.lifecycle. So we're switching. So this is exactly what I was talking about. Is I would, if this was like a normal switch, if this was a normal enum, I could just like have it this lag is killing me. It's killing me because now it's like the input lag is God, I don't even know how to write a switch statement without autocomplete. I'm not going to do what I was going to do, because now we have a piece of state that is being edited, and that means we can take that to the bank and cache it. That's enough for this view. What I mean by that is that that's enough to test this basic like editing feature. across the entire stack. So now we should prioritize creating a task because I don't really want to bother with rigging up the entire full stack until we've got until we're creating actual task items. So what we're going to do is we're going to need a we'll stick with this one main file for now. I kind of just want to get okay. So this increment counter, this is from the boilerplate. So we're going to generate random task. That's what we're going to do, and we're going to lorem ipsum. We're just going to get ourselves a list of tasks, because what I basically am aiming for right now is to have enough sample data to where this will be fun. Let's just go get a lorem ipsum. Dart lorem. I don't like specifically lorem ipsum, but I want enough sample data to where I can create tasks and see them propagate to the database. And then once I do that, I'm going to add in GraphQL Flutter, and we'll make a typed mutation component. So well, okay. API reference. It's got a library. It's got a create paragraph, and that's not worth it. I'm just going to do some writing things by hand is fun. Watch Indiana Jones. Eat cotton candy. Watch No Up Cat. How many of these do I need? I don't need very many, but I'm going to watch a couple more. I'm subscribe to Michael Joseph Rosenthal on YouTube. Actually attempt to get a stream audience. Stop being such a coward and post in the Discord. Stop being such a coward and post in the Discord. Okay. So now let's go get with index. With index is a helper that I have elsewhere. Maybe I'll grab my entire pointless helpers. Yeah, I'll just grab the entire pointless helpers. So if you're wondering why I don't tab over to anything when I go grab things, it's because I'm under some delusion that I will one day monetize the app that I'm pulling things out of. So I don't want to. I removed the ability for me to tip hand on code there without pasting it into this project. So now you know. So these are some nice help. Like this is the thing that I wanted. This is not particularly useful. I'm going to delete this. I can always go get it back later. So this just adds an index function to a map. You can, as I mentioned, point-free programming earlier. This is a good example of that paradigm. So by naming the function I didn't import it, but it doesn't matter. I think it, no, is it, which one comes first? Index comes second. And the index is going to be our ID, and we're going to rebuild, and you'll notice that I didn't copy and paste the to-dos, and it's like, why not just copy and paste the to-dos? It's because I wanted to do this instead, even though it's like way less efficient than just pasting in what is going to be temporary data anyways. So really no good reason for me to not do that. Same applies for the ID. I could have just copy and pasted and edited every ID, but I didn't because I overgeneralize early. So as I was saying before, the cool thing about point-free programming is this becomes like a sentence. So we map with index, and then if you were to continue down the rabbit hole and name this, it could be something like continue with index, or no, map with index, add simple params or something. So, but one of the kind of nightmare things about point-free programming in a language that is not designed to be point-free is inference becomes like pretty difficult. Like when I first got really into point-free programming, it was with Ramda in TypeScript, and Ramda is, I mean, JavaScript isn't designed to be point-free, so I bet the typings have gotten a lot better. We're generating a random task every time this button is pressed. We do not need all of this documentation. So one crazy cool thing about Flutter and okay, actually I'm going to describe what I'm doing real quick. So add so yeah, we're not actually generating a random task. So even in this paltry sample code, I'm lying to us, and I'm lying to you, and I'm sorry for that. But that's just the way the world is. You know, the code, the comments in the code, they're always going to lie to you. Only trust the code itself. The tooltips, you know, you can't trust the tooltip. Trust an error message. Never trust the tooltip. So this will error out if I add too many tasks, and the solution to that would be to module so that we just get a rotating list of values, but that's not really worth doing right now. I don't know why this is complaining. How does this not know the type? It's an iterable task, but it should be a list. That's the complaint. Because iterables don't have index capabilities. And I'm going to seed the task. Oh, seed the task list. What a waste of time, huh? None of this was actual, like, abstraction building. I wonder if it works. Do y'all think it works? Let me know in the comments below. So this is what I was talking about before, is because we're building stuff directly in the main file, it complains. So I'm going to go ahead and make a file. I don't think that this is going to be the name we use for very long, but you know, one funny thing about this right now is you can tell that what I'm doing is not like very like particularly interesting because the I haven't had to switch views for a while. Just for that's all that I'm looking at. So I'm replacing my home page with a task list. There's no such thing as a title for our task list. And now we want to replace homepage state with task list state. And I'm not going to make it private because I'm a bit of a okay. There was such a thing as the title. Oh no, but we're pulling this out of that. Right. We're gonna want to go back and change the way this works later, but we have to use the entire scaffold because we want this floating action button. So, okie dokie, okie day. So now we can just import the task list. And delete everything else. And that makes our main page lean and will hopefully prevent these kind of like state pass-through errors. Maybe if we change this name. I'm kind of troubleshooting a bit sloppily. I don't know why this is such a complaint. Maybe I have to restart. Okay. Restarting. All right. This is a healthy hour amount of streaming. I'm going to go ahead and switch to this view. Just my face in this beautiful error message so that I can go and paste this video link into the GraphQL Flutter Discord because I think after an hour of content, I am starting to feel comfortable with this stuff. I wonder if so. I am gonna go ahead and take a bit of well, I don't think anyone's gonna mind that I'm making a live coding text channel in the GraphQL Flutter chat. I wonder where this belongs. It's not just Flutter. The structure of this Discord is a bit weird. Okay, whatever. This is a lull. What's wrong? What? Did it crash? Is it just loading? What's going on? Sometimes the simulator is really slow. How long am I into this? I'm 1 hour and 15 minutes in. I didn't let anyone know that this was happening. I just I've been joking about the ghosts, my ghost army. There's like literally no way anyone could know that this was happening. It would be impossible. So this must be incredibly boring. Why? Okay, I don't know what's going on here. I'm Flutter cleaning. I was using this as an excuse for, I need like a standby screen. In order to like get into and learn about streaming, there's basically like, there aren't that many resources that are coding specific. NoOpCat wrote a bunch of good articles. So shout out NoOpCat. I also like her stream layout quality. And like if you go on Twitch, it's clear that, I mean, I don't fault them for it, but there are lots of developers or like streamers who they just throw up their entire setup like raw and then code, and there's nothing wrong with that, but like Noah Cat's stream is like very manicured and high quality, so uh it sets my like janky quadrant system to shame. uh so anyways, uh so this is like taking a really long time to spin up in the simulator, and I don't know why, but I'm using the opportunity to actually tell people that I'm doing this. Somebody reacted. Oh man, he came. Okay, so what's up, Britannia? You're my first viewer that I don't know personally. Can you I can't actually wait. All right, cool. I was double checking that the stream was still working. All right, so I was just dealing with an issue where the simulator wasn't restarting, so I moved the logic, the guts of what I'm working on, into task list. Oh, so so that it would be easier on the hot reloader. So one thing I've noticed, I think this is like common in Flutter, is that the and in hot reloading scenarios in general, is changes to the main file they cause jank. So I'm trying to eschew that jank. So okay, we got other. Oh, okay. So this is what I get for this premature optimization. All these have to be task builders. So I'm using built GraphQL, which is a library that I made recently for generating built value models from GraphQL code. The built value basically lets you have immutable and like null safe value types, but also provides you with builder types that you can, like, this constructor is, it takes a builder type that you can edit however you want in order to like create your task type. So the issue here is that I'm instantiating a bunch of tasks as tasks themselves instead of builder types without the ID, which is a required field. So the way to solve this is simply to instantiate a bunch of I don't know why. I feel like I've always like had better results from not reloading directly from the main file. That's going to be okay. Why didn't that work? I'm trying to record a Vim macro. There we go. So this can just be builder. We'll add these features to the builder and then build it. And we'll build instead of buid. And it's complaining about the same kind of stuff that it was complaining about before. Okay, there we go. Oh, badass. Yeah, so built GraphQL that's actually the project we're in right now. So but it is not yet published because it's only like a couple weeks old. But let's. Yeah. The offline cache is there are a couple of screwy things about it. It's in need of a significant amount of development work, but the optimistic results thing, yeah, that should be actually, I'm a bit surprised that there's not that much, like, that there's the documentation there is unsatisfactory, because So let's take a look at it. I mean, it's the GraphQL Flutter is a bit like struggling, right? This is not a good sign from this is master, but still we have a thing that merges into master regularly, but this is not a good sign for your development health. Like 12 days ago, that's not that bad, but so in examples, I'd recommend taking a look at Star Wars. I think I put some decent, not in reviews. Does it actually make sense that there would be optimistic updates in here? I don't think so. I'm wrong. So one kind of problem with the structure of this is something we should work on is the examples are not in the same place. There's like top level examples that are kind of generalized or generic. And then there's like the simpler ones that are used as like kind of regression testing. So if we take a look at this, the optimistic result here is defined here. So oh, what's up? It's Clavs. Am I pronouncing your name right? Is this the Clavs? It's got to be right. How many Clavs are there? So we've got, okay, so trying to bring you all up to speed. Yeah, that's my man. So I can actually tell you, why don't I tell you all about it? So one thing that I thought was going to happen for some reason is, so I recorded like an hour of this already, and like I was kind of going like exhaustively through like my stack and stuff, but obviously it's like more interesting to actually talk about it live. So but built GraphQL is generating your ASTs, or it's hooking into your AST generator. So I'm hoping to like glom the models that I'm generating and the documents from the GQL AST into higher order like typed functions. In fact, I think that's probably more relevant to both of y'all than what I'm doing right now. So let me go grab it from I'm dipping into my private collection of abstractions. Where did I put this? It's got to be in the GraphQL sub module, right? Okay. So okay, let's take a look. See here. I don't know if this is where this should go at the end of the day, but it's where it's going to go right now. So it was written for GraphQL to Dart, which used JSON serializable, but that's not what we have anymore. I'm also going to grab that. Those dev utils are, I think the only thing in there is pretty printing for Flutter. So what do we have here? This should become probably built GraphQL. No, BuiltValue null. Okay, so unfortunately BuiltValue does not have a does not appear to have a generic error type that is for the entire library, but we can catch the null so that whenever there's a null type, we will okay, we're actually not going to do anything with this right now. So the whole premise of this is to wrap to have a nice convenient way of making typed GraphQL mutations. These might not be necessary anymore. Well, the mutation factory definitely is, but the way that I use this, right? So it's not that pleasant to like. Usually, you just want to wrap a document node and say like this component is like this document node's provider, instead of like throwing around the super generic widget with all of these. So what I usually do is this has a currying, a factory courier that lets you define a closure that returns a typed mutation for your specific document type and serializers, etc. So we can go ahead and make a what should it be? Task, create task form. So this is just a to-do app right now. It's going to be more. It's going to be big and grand and beautiful one day, but for now it's just a baby little to-do app. So so let's see how good these models, how good my plan works in practice, right? So create task mutation. This is essentially a closure that return it's basically a pseudo widget. It's a widget. Consider it a widget. So because this isn't actually, I think I can just delete this because it's a static method. It's not a factory. Yeah. So, and I don't even know if this is necessary. What? Dynamic? Did I really? Would I really do such a thing? Hmm. I don't think that with built, um, Okay, I'm gonna keep using these for now. I don't think it's really makes sense to use these wrap from JSON. All this does is essentially like guarantee type safety that is unnecessary, with or not as necessary with BuiltValue serialization scheme. So this is a create task form, right? I don't know what just happened. Okay, let's get Flutter. I have nothing set up in this project yet, so I probably won't get to the point where I can actually demonstrate this working because I haven't even set up the GraphQL Flutter client and cache and stuff. But let us see. Builder is what we care about. So this isn't good because the whole point of this optimistic result should be typed, I'm fairly sure. So if it isn't, there's something wrong with my typed mutation widget. Why is this complaining? Is this complaining because yes it is? It's because all these are parameterized. So let's take a look-see at typed mutation. Optimistic result should be typed. Really, we should make these generic. But this should obviously be. I say obviously, but maybe there's some reason why I didn't do it this way. What's wrong with that? It's got a different. What's wrong with that? All right, I clearly am not respecting my old code enough. Perhaps. All right, let's add some documentation. that wasn't very useful. This is why. No, that's not why. This is kind of ironic because obviously I had it done before and I changed it, and now it's broken. Well, it's not broken, but it's not what I want it to be. I bet I'm going to learn quite rapidly why that is the case. It's probably because so if this is strongly typed, in order to convert it to the dynamically typed version from GraphQL Flutter, this data type needs to have a toJSON or something similar. So that's what we're going to give it. We're going to make sure that data extends to JSON. And that's no. This should just be, this isn't worth making its own type def, is it? Let's just call it serializer. No, serialize to JSON. Serialize from JSON, serialize to JSON. If we had better type level programming in Dart, then we could just make this based on the structure of a class, and then we could have class level programming. I guess that's what I'm talking about. So, dang. Thanks for the sub. You're my first, if not my first subscriber, certainly the first subscriber that I don't know, like, in person. So you're beginning of a revolution. So Built GraphQL has some runtime features. Why can't I go here? Don't see how that changes the data the widget shows. It should. So are you talking about the expected, the example, or your code specifically? Is this example code buggy? This example code might be missing a set state. But no, that can't be right. Run mutation certainly calls set state itself. So what should happen is the optimistic update is applied to the So when a change is made to the query key in the cache, the observable that looks at the cache is notified and pipes it down the stream into the widget. That's more or less how that works. So I don't think that there's going to be a bug in this particular example. Oh, I'm looking at the example right now. I don't think that there's going to be a bug in this particular example because it's old and kind of like battle tested, but so I'm a bit surprised at this. Let's go take a look at built to JSON. So this should really be, I'm not going to change this right now, but it should probably be built GraphQL to JSON to avoid namespace collisions, or to just be more specific. So that's part of this API that I'll have to decide on later. Basically to add type, like structural type awareness to my model types so that I can actually make good abstractions. I gave everything this to JSON so that so that I could do this, so that I could guarantee that typed mutation knows about to JSON. So the other nice the other runtime types of built GraphQL are, it's got this interface serializer, which I guess an end user doesn't really need serializers in a way, with a convenience helper for making it easier to give us these nice little 2JSON helpers in the first place. So anyways, exposition, this needs, I don't actually know if I just make variables extend to JSON, there's no reason to bother with this. It's totally superfluous. We always need the data from JSON though, because you can't give a class a type. You can't give the class itself a type. So, because who would ever want to generalize that high up the abstraction tree? No, that's not why. It's just hard to do. It's hard for them to implement. Okay. Variables doesn't need this. This is just, oh. I don't even see it. I don't even know where that was used. What's going on here? I'm mildly confused about this. This is a perfect example of when I should have documented the code better in the first place. Okay, I don't want to. I'm a little bit. See, this is. I think I was saying earlier that it's ironic how I streamed for like an hour before even telling literally anyone that I was streaming, just because I wanted to. I mean, this is the first time, like, I've tried to do this a couple times before, but like they all sucked. So So this is the first time I'm like actually doing, like I've actually got this set up to the point where it's not like crashing and overheating constantly or whatever. So um so the downside is that I'm kind of tired, so I'm not really okay, what I'm not all that I could be right now. I'm sure there was some good reason for that's where these want to go, for naming these differently, but I am feeling like for naming these type variables differently, I probably wanted to express to myself that they are in different code paths. Stop it. Dog barking. So what do you think is wrong here? Structural typing has its downsides, and that's what we're looking at. I bet this builder is, yeah. No? What is the problem here? That's the problem. Okay, so that's an improved version of our typed mutation. What was I in the middle of doing? I was using it for something, right? So we don't need variables to JSON because every variable is going to have a toJSON function. We're kind of guaranteed to be in the right situation here. We're guaranteed to be using built GraphQL, so we can like aggressively take advantage of that fact. So this is still, I didn't even fix what I set out to fix. Okay, so we want to this run mutation is query results is untyped. Doesn't matter. I'm in the wrong place. I just assumed that I was in the right place. My Dart analyzer terminated. That's how I... Okay. I don't think that's actually why, but... okay, so I need to be using the typed run mutation. And I guess I'm not? Is that what's going on? What might be going on is that actually everything's fine and the analyzer just crashed, so I was left with an old error message. So we'll see. So the builder takes in, okay, I should document this. while I'm going to document this because I clearly don't remember my own code very well. So what is there a good doc string for this? There is not. I guess that's not that surprising. Is it all that much richer? Yes, it's much richer. Okay. If I was less tired, I would probably just say these are the structure of this type def is pretty self-documenting. So here's a good question. Yeah, the hover doesn't take the documentation on the type of, and this isn't a richer form of run mutation. What am I thinking? What madness? So, okay, what is the idea here? This is the builder. This is the renderer. So builder with all necessary converted what with all what's the right way to phrase this? With all loosely typed what I want to do is go find the equivalent in GraphQL Flutter so that I can compare them. No. Yes. Obviously. Okay. A strongly typed form version of Mutation Builder. And this doesn't have any doc strings, so that's something that really we could stand to improve upon. So it wasn't an issue with the analyzer. type run mutation. I don't know why this is still complaining the way it is. I feel silly. I'm doing something silly. Data from JSON, builder, builder. In the builder, the optimistic result type is correct. Ha. All right, take it easy. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm tired enough, and it's only 4 p.m. here, so. But yeah, take it easy. Oh, no reactions, only punishment actions from the moderator drop down menu. Cool. Thumbs up. Okay. Well, I can always do that, but it's because that didn't even belong there in the first place. That was a nested. See, this is how I can tell that I should probably wind down this stream soon. I want to get something like concrete here, but that's how you use the typed mutation. Is That's basically it. There's another version that is like there's a typed query as well, but I'll throw that up on the GitHub later. So I'm trying to get back into the main track of the application. So the one major question is going to be task input builders. So I don't know, input. So a problem that I was running into in a different app was how to manage state with the BuiltValue. Like, do you use the BuiltValue values in a form? Do you just use like a map and then serialize the JSON? But I think this shouldn't be final, and it shouldn't even be instantiated. Well, no, it can be instantiated. I think using the builder, these are just mutable types, right? So they're mutable and they can be like easily serialized. So they're a perfect fit for a form state. So we're also going to need an actual form state, right? God. I'm really slogging through some brain fog right now. So pulling from a different project with forms. there's a little bit of jank when it comes to Flutter forms, but well, okay, that's not really fair. I've encountered jank with Flutter forms, but only because I do weird shit with my widget tree. So I'm nabbing some boilerplate code that I could easily get punished for grabbing because I'm not reading it, and not reading code is always a risk. So this is a useful utility widget, but I'm not going to bother with it right now. And I'm going to name this task. Don't really want to name it task input builder, right? That would be a bit lame, but what's going on here? Okay. Okay. So another thing I wish I had in, well, in all languages is just like functional access to the set operator. It would be so nice to just be able to write like for this expression to evaluate to a setter function. But alas, that is not the world we live in. Let's genericize this validator. Let's not, because we don't actually have another text field that we need. We're going to copy and paste it doesn't matter if they don't provide a valid or a description. So, okay, we've got form state, and now there are errors. Why are there errors? It is because we imported the schema. The schema also exports a document. So the other option would be to just hide the document. But that's not what we're doing for now. And there are many situations where we want to build a task, but don't have one yet. So one principle I think is good is I've kind of messed around with like trying to make forms that are based on queries, and then mutate, like transform that into the set of inputs, and that is not a good idea, I don't think, because it goes contrary to the, I think that maybe like abstracting on top of the base types into an orchestration of input types, that might be a decent abstraction for like genericizing form data, but munging between the fragment types, like I think it's best to leave query types as read-only types that you only build again in the context of an optimistic update. So probably advice that nobody else needed to hear because it's like a bit obvious, but to builder. So if we've got a task that we're editing, we convert it to a builder. Otherwise, it's just a basic task input builder. Eventually, I'd like to auto-generate input converters so that this could be either a task input or a task, or that it would be easy to use it as such. But that currently isn't the case. Okay, so now we're creating our state. And one weird thing about Flutter forms is that the state that you validate is not necessarily the state that you end up saving. So, okay, let's just make this as simple as possible. Button. What is it? Material button? No. Raised button. Did I paste this incorrectly? On press. Okay. So on pressed, we run the mutation. Simple enough. One thing I talked about earlier was there's a issue with the built value generated like errors, in that, I mean, it's not like a problem with built value, it's just that they're not particularly good for serialization scenarios. I'm looking for something generated to illustrate. So I'm sure I can find it. I'm not sure I can find it. There should be well, there's one error, but I'm looking for something illustrative, and I could not find it. I don't know why. There we go. No, maybe. Here we are. So this is the problem, is like, if we wanted to use built value serialization in or built values errors as form validation, like maybe create some sort of translation layer, we can only get one of these at a time. So that's not good. So the options here are to either write our own like error collection type that and just like make everything nullable from built values perspective, which is fine. We're generating code, or we push through some change to built value, but I think the built value guy is kind of like overworked or something. But anyways, tangents. So we set the task input. So in this case, this is kind of Silly. What? Oh. Yeah. This is also something that there should be a better abstraction for. So is this a bug? No. Whatever. This is frustrating. The cascade order of operations is kind of confusing or tough to get used to. There we go. That should not have been. See, I don't feel like that should have been that difficult, but which is to say I want to make it a better DX in the future for myself. And obviously I did not really finish Is that it? Okay. So now we have a form. We have a form. And all it is a column. So we can put it pretty much anywhere. So now we want to take this form and we want to put it. Let's just throw it at the bottom of the screen. I don't know how I'm going to get something that actually is making calls to my backend by the end of this. But we'll see. We will see. Let's wrap this in a connect. This is going to be awkward. Okay. Maybe I can bottom sheet. Bottom sheet. So I'm kind of just trying to get a persistent bottom sheet that contains the form. I kind of don't expect this to go as easily as I want it to. But I guess we'll see in about 5 seconds. It does not appear to be working. I don't want it to ever close. Okay, whatever. Can I get away with this? Didn't think so. Oh, cool. I've been on the same screen for so long that I thought that... Okay. I think I have to change the hotkeys that I use for switching. they're only working when I'm focused on OBS. So, anyways, I'll never ever learn with this stuff, with the columns. Yeah, value getter. The getter value is called on null. Okay. Progress? Question mark? Question mark? Let's push it to the bottom. I think that'll work. Anyways. Value is called on null. Haha. Yeah. So we don't have a client. So dipping into my, I'm a big fan of copy paste. Okay, so and it's really disappointing that I thought I had finally solved the problem of OBS screen switching, but it looks like I have not, because I cannot switch without it being in focus. So, oh well. Oh, what just happened? Okay. Hyperlinked to the code. Client. Dun, dun, dun. And copy and paste, and copy and paste, copy and paste. $200, that's why they call me Mr. Fahrenheit. Let's go full screen for a little bit. So now I'm dipping into my PostgreSQL server, plucking out some connection URI. It does not have any authentication. Don't really need that. Don't need WebSockets yet. So all we're doing is linking up the basic app. Is the default cache provider optimistic yet? Because it really should be. I don't know who's using a cache without wanting an optimistic one. Or rather, it's a totally valid use case, but why bother? Making it the default. Okay. Why is task list? Okay, we don't need things to be const yet, but we do need things to rebuild. Cool, we got a form, and we're gonna want safe area. And we're gonna want to rebuild it. And it does not appear to, what? What are the defaults? Refresh. Okay. Well, that's not pretty. I only put the safe area around the task list. Well, whatever. Form card seems appropriate to me. Probably not. Boy, it really doesn't want to. What is that third thing down here? See that? That artifact. This. Is that a button? Where'd that come from? It's a button without any text. Abusing list tile here to get good padding, hopefully. Let's force refresh because it's not wanting to. Yep, that's good. Okay. Okay, it's ugly, but it works. And the I think that'll probably just submit. Actually, we've got defaults. Okay, so let's go take a look at the schema. I'm spinning up the GraphQL server with PostGraphQL. So we can this might actually just work. Test desk save. Oh, you fool, for thinking that it would work on the first try. That's just not how this world works. Handshake exception? What? What? Is this I gotta be honest, not the error I was expecting. Maybe it's because there's a this is the stack trace, but I'm coming over here to look into iOS simulator localhost, because the problem I think might be that oh no, you know what, I bet it is HTTPS. That's probably the problem. What a horrible exception. Test, test, test desk. Save. Okay, cool. So this is a aggravating error. Create task input used for a create task input. Great. It's actually trivial. I think that's all it takes. Oh, but this is not going to work. So here's a problem with my current setup. Is I need to rerun the generator every time there's a change to a query. What? That's new, I think. Oh. All right. All right. We're almost toast here, ladies and gentlemen. We're running out of fumes. That takes so long. Oh my god. That is not okay. The code generator takes so long that it'll like let you know that it's hasn't finished intermittently. It's so slow. While it's doing that, let's take a look at our schema and get the task get tasks, all tasks. So we're going to want an all tasks. Oh man, I'm tired. Shit. Okay, we're not going to finish this. All I want now is the simple knowledge that I can post to the database. Moment of truth. Moment of truth, ladies and gentlemen. Task, desk. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I like to see. That's okay. Okay, so this is our earlier attempt. That's our first attempt. 0 errors. We don't have any queries, so we can't see it in the app, but there we go. We created a to-do, and it only took live coding. So I really gotta the hotkey thing figured out. Commit. So caching? Oh, it's hard to say because I mean, I'm fairly confident that it does, but without a query to test it against. Well, okay, we can probably All right, let me see if I can throw out some. Yeah, so the caching for this should probably be working out of the box, right? Like optimistic caching. Especially since the typed mutation has an optimistic result, and the actually I shouldn't be so confident that the I copy pasted this. So yeah, so since we already have the optimistic cache, and it should be normalized, and we don't have good cache inspection tools, unfortunately. So I can't just go into the cache and like set a breakpoint and take a look at if our entity is updated before the response from the server. So, but almost certainly our cache is working all right here. Every engineer's last words, right, before they find out that there was actually a bug. I haven't tested it yet, but I'm confident that the system works as expected. Okay. I was just showing you stuff, and I really gotta figure out this scene switching thing, because I was just showing you. I was trying to show that. Okay. Anyways, I'm gonna commit this typed mutations. Create mocked out listing. So the original name of this sample app was to-do clock. but it is no longer. Let's PR it. It's going to be a brief PR. I like this new UI for PRs. Started work on sample to-do app. I'm going to let's see. Copy video URL. So what is the description of this? It's the sample to-do app. PR'd in this YouTube video is technically documentation, in my opinion. On, let's see, what is the best way to go about developing this stuff in the open? Should I just, for now I'm just going to PR this into master. So beginnings of the sample to-do app. To-do app roadmap. Okay. Quarantine stream. Teen stream 0.1. All right. Merge pull request. It's my project. I can merge what I want to. Merge what I want to. Whoa. Someone's been busy. Okay. So I'm going to leave it off there. We'll probably do more of this, a lot more of this, because I'm not really planning on, I'm kind of just going to work on stuff, like open source stuff on stream for, I don't know, probably a week or so, exclusively, so that I can get a groove with it. And I really, I mean, this is pretty fun. It's draining, surprisingly draining to babble while developing compared to just developing, but it's fun. So anyways, thanks for tuning in, Britannia. I can't really tell if the one concurrent viewer is you or me right now, but but if you're here, yeah, thanks for sticking around till the end. And anyone that watches in the future, to all of my yeah, you're still here. Cool. And yeah, I'll catch y'all later to Britannia and my future ghost empire. Later. How do I end this?